Hey everyone, Melissa Vining here, and I'm thrilled to be back with you for the first time this year on the Hip Kit Club YouTube channel. And it is Friday, which means it is Challenge Friday, and this week we have a really fun recipe challenge for you to play along with. So the recipe calls for fussy cutting, stitching, frames, at least 5 lines of journaling, and as an extra assignment I need to stitch in at least 3 different places. So this is the December 2020 kit, and it's very wintry and beautiful, and I love that it is completely full of exclusive products. And I've selected a couple of photos of my daughter Azaria. She's 11, and I think this would have been in our winter. Yeah, this was our winter last year, so the opposite season to what most of you are in. And we had only one day that it snowed right down to where we live. It used to snow all the time down to where we live, but strangely, the climate is different. The seasons are a bit different at the moment, and this is the only day that it snowed right down to the ground. And so I have these 2 photos, and I'm definitely using this one. I'm not sure about this one. Other products I have pulled, I thought I'd just show you the fussy cutting and also the stitching that I've done. So these are the papers that I've fussy cut from, and these are frames, so I think they would work as frames as well, as per the recipe. So I've cut a few out of this one. I have fussy cut some of these flowers. This is one of my favourite papers in the entire kit. And I have fussy cut some of the houses off this paper. So, and also, actually, I fussy cut some of these scallops as well, and this was pretty kind of difficult, harder to do than the other fussy cutting, is what I'm trying to say. But I just took my time, and I love how they turned out. So I'll just show you what I did. So I did these scallops, like I said. I have fussy cut out some of these houses and some of these frames. I've left the snowflake in this one because I think it goes well with my wintry photos. And then for the stitching, I decided to stitch on the pattern paper, and then I'll fussy cut them out. So the first ones I did were the inner parts of the trees, and I love how they look, really sweet. And then this paper, to me, really wanted to be fussy cut and stitched. So I have just stitched around the outside of the main florals, and then I've fussy cut them out like so. And I think I'm going to stitch one of these and maybe fussy cut one for you to see how I've done it. So other items I have got for the frames, there's lots of frames in this chipboard sticker set here. Hi Ava. Ava's just popped in to say hello. It's still school holidays here. And I've also pulled out some more chipboard. That's sort of, to me, this kind of directs you to journal. I've got some puffy stickers, some faux stickers, more puffy stickers, and the floral die cuts, and another pack of chipboard stickers, and I might use some of the winter themed phrases and even some of the snowflake. So that's kind of as far as I've got. I had a little idea in my mind of what I'm going to do, and I'm going to see if it's going to work, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was show you the stitching and the fussy cutting of the flowers on this beautiful paper. So what I did for this one was just cut the flower out roughly. You want to leave enough room for your stitching. You don't want to cut too close to the flower at this stage. I'm using the full 6 strands of this DMC embroidery floss, and my needle is quite big. I probably could use a smaller needle if I wanted to get a finer stitch, but I'm okay with these being like the full 6 skein, like the normal width of the thread. So I've just pierced my holes, trying to keep them as even as possible. This obviously is an easy shape to stitch because it's quite round. The other flowers had petals and were more delicate, and I had to be more careful with where I placed my holes. And all I'm doing is doing a simple back stitch, which I'm sure most of you have seen other YouTube scrapbookers do many times. So I just tie a knot for my start and tie a knot for my finish. And here I'm using these these are precision scissors that are made for fussy cutting, and I love them. And I'm wanting to keep a white border because of the stitching, because I don't want to cut too close to that stitching, or I could risk cutting the stitching. So you could maybe, if you were wanting to take a bit more time and not do the stitching, you could definitely fussy cut these without the white border. I think you'd struggle a bit on the finer black sort of leaves, but yeah, it would look fine either way. So I've just shown you there me fussy cutting one of the other flowers, that yellow one. And so now I am wanting to get my frames on, and I'm wanting to use both photos if possible, because I love the one that the first photo here of her standing there is a beautiful photo. And the second photo is an action shot. So it's not the greatest. Obviously, after it snows, straight away after it snows, the weather is still very overcast. It's not normally till the next day that we get beautiful blue skies. So I've edited that photo, the one I'm working on there, but it's not the greatest, and so I'm happy to use a smaller frame and only really feature her running with the snowball in her hand. So that little photo will be a secondary photo. It's really the main photo is the bigger one. So I am wanting to have a really pretty palette for this layout. In my mind, because I'm not doing mixed media, I wanted to try and create the look of mixed media with some paper strips, and I love the torn edges because it's imperfect and messy, and mixed media is kind of imperfect and messy as well. So in my mind, I had this idea of having like a bottom right side corner design. If you know my scrapbooking, you know that I gravitate towards a right-sided design. So this is a little bit different for me. But because of the requirement to have at least 5 lines of journaling, I want to make sure I have enough room on my layout to get everything down that I want to say. And in the choosing of these photos, I chose them because they were winter themed, and this is a winter themed kit, and so I really wanted to play off the snowflake embellishments, really, because where I live it snows in winter. It can actually snow any time of the year. It snowed on Boxing Day, which is summer, but it's a whole other story, and I have a photo and I'm sure I'll tell that story. But I really wanted to make the most of using winter themed product with my winter photos because we have snow. So here I've done a lot of this off camera because I needed to stitch each piece of paper as I glued it, but basically I've just laid them over each other and created an L shape on the right side, the bottom right side of the page. So you can see what I mean by kind of looking like mixed media with those torn edges. I've also added those fussy cut scallops, and I did think about stitching them as well, but because they are so thin and I'm not using a fine line glue bottle, I didn't really want to go stitching through all that glue. But I love how they look not stitched because the other pieces are stitched. So here are those partially fussy cut frames. These 2 frames off that paper were cut on the edge of the paper. So remember that with a 12 by 12 piece of paper, if a design goes off the side of the page, you can always use it. And an example of that is flowers. You can fussy cut the ones off the side and they've got a straight edge, and then you can tuck them under other things. And so you don't always need the full flower or frame or whatever the embellishment is. So now I'm realizing that I want to pop up these frames just so I can tuck some things underneath. And because so far this layout is quite flat, I'm going to add a lot more dimension soon as I lift up the edges of things, which is something I love to do. But I just needed these photos to shine, especially this one in the black frame, because they are really the star, or they are the star of the layout because they are what the layout is all about. And so I love embellishments too. Obviously I love scrapbooking projects, but I always do want to make sure that my photos are there to really help tell the story. So these little trees turned out really cute. I just fussy cut them out as well. And I love the little scene I'm creating with the houses and the trees next to them. And it kind of reminds me because these photos were taken in our neighbourhood. So for a very short amount of time, there was some snow on the roofs of the surrounding houses and our house as well. And I'm really wanting to create that little scene so that it looks like an urban environment, which is where we live. So I've added some foam behind this other photo and frame as well, and I did debate where to put that photo. I thought about adding it on the bottom part of the layout as well, but I love how it looks up there, and I love that I've left the bottom part of the layout for that little scene that I'm creating. So now I want to make sure I use all of these flowers because I've taken the time and effort to stitch and fussy cut them, and I'm really happy that I do get them all down. Now I'm wanting to make sure also that I don't put two of the same together, so I'm spacing out those 3 yellow flowers and also the pink flowers. So it's starting to look really cute, and I have to be honest, when I thought about this layout, like I said, I only really had the idea for the corner design. I did not, and obviously the flowers and the fussy cut items, but I didn't really know if it was going to look good or if it was going to work out. Sometimes I will get sort of an idea for something and I'll get the whole idea and I'll just build it from what I have in my mind, and other times I'll get the beginning of an idea and then I have to build it from there. So this was definitely one of those ones that came together really well, really easily. So now I'm wanting to add some of these die cut leaves. I'm going predominantly, I think, for the black and white ones because I have a lot of colour going on already, and just playing around to see what's going to work. I don't want to use anything too big because it's going to take away from the scale of the layout, and I did try a few of the coloured ones as well, and they look fine, like looking at them now, but I think I stuck to mostly black and white. And maybe actually this one, which is still pretty neutral. I was trying to be careful because I went to the effort of cutting those scallops and I didn't want to cover them completely. I still wanted them to be seen, even though they are very subtle. So actually, in saying all of that, I have added a pink coloured leaf next to the large pink flower at the top of the frame. And now these beautiful, beautiful white puffy leaves, pieces of foliage, they are so subtle, and I just love the little hint of subtleness that they add to this layout, and they are very hoardable. I could probably do with, I don't know, another 3 packs of these. So I was trying not to use too many because I want to save them for another layout. These are the puffy stickers and they're absolutely adorable. I just love that this entire kit is exclusive. The products are just delightful. The images, the phrases, I love them so much. So now I'm wanting to add some snowflakes because, got to make the most of the snowflake embellishments with a snow photo. And I've put all of them kind of on the inside of my L shape except for that one underneath that big floral. I've also added some heart chipboard stickers as well. And other than that, I think that's all I add. I don't go overboard with anything else. So now I want to get my title down, and I just use the chipboard that said Winter Fun, and I'm just using that triangle ruler just to line it up. And here you can see I've got the perfect space for at least 5 lines of journaling. And looking at my layout, I've got 7 or 8, I think. 9 lines of journaling. And I am a journaler anyway. It's very rare that I do a layout that doesn't have journaling on it. If I do, it's usually the title page for an album that I'm making, like a 12 by 12 album for something specific. And so for this one though, I definitely wanted to add enough journaling so that it was a feature of the page. And I had a lot to say about our winter last year and how odd it was because there wasn't much snow, and how it used to be that we had a lot of snow every winter and now we don't so much. So excuse my head and my sunglasses. I just wanted to get in there and underline all the lines of journaling, and then off camera later on I will erase the pencil lines. Now I have extended my final line quite long because I'm going to add the date, but I need to get the date off my phone, which I'm filming on. So I'm adding some enamel dots, and then my final touch is just to add some pewter splatters. I just think it adds the little perfect tiny finishing touch, and that is my final layout. So I hope I've inspired you to play along. Make sure you head on over to the Hip Kit Club Facebook group for all the details on how to play along with this challenge, and definitely check out the link below to the website where you can become a subscriber. And becoming a subscriber has benefits such as saving on the other kits and also access to the subscriber free cut files. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again later on.